I appreciate everyone being timely. I appreciate everyone being here. Again, like I was saying, I know that there's 500,000 other things that you could be doing, but I think it's important for us to gather occasionally to sort of catch up on what's going on, to talk about things that are coming up, and to just sort of reset, reorient, reinvigorate, hopefully, somewhat some of the work that we do. So, thank you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try to get through a pretty packed agenda here, if my computer will work. Okay, maybe not. Maybe we'll just use the mouse. There we go. A pretty packed agenda, so, and if I can get through it all, then we'll have some time for questions and potentially get out early. So what we're going to do is welcome. All right, we did that, so number one's done. I've got a few staff updates. We have some new staff that we've hired. I don't know how many of them are here, but if you are here, I will be asking you to stand up so that we can see you and meet you. I want to talk about some new projects, programs, and publications, the PPP. Then for the show, I'm just the warm-up. The real show is the PR team. Kelly and Jolynn will be talking a little bit about the advantages of using Slack. I know that a lot of you have heard me request that we move some of our communications to Slack. The PR team has actually taken me up on that and moved almost all of their communications to Slack. There are some definite advantages to doing it, and hopefully they'll be able to share some of those advantages. I'm going to talk about performance appraisals and sort of that process. Renaming and rethinking the role and function of the CPD is a big part of our afternoon. A few of you saw my email a couple weeks ago asking you to participate in the survey on a new name for the CPD. I do have the results of that. And I have actually proposed the new name to the dean, and we're moving on with that, but I'll sort of give you an update on that and kind of some of what's going on in terms of the big picture. And then we'll talk about some important dates and upcoming events, and if there's time, we'll do questions. Afterwards, from 4 o'clock until 5, there's food. I think it's donuts, veggies, and yeah, donuts and veggies. Great combination. If you are a vegetarian, they are not veggie donuts. So that's we tried that. They were not. I don't know if there's bacon donuts, but back in the lobby of the CPD, just take some time to hang out and have a conversation. We're, again, frequently so busy doing what we do that we don't take time to socialize and get to know the folks that we work with. So we're trying to set aside the hour after this for a little informal socializing and just get together. So that's kind of where we're going today. So what I'll do is I'll jump in first here to staff updates. We actually brought on quite a few new staff, and I don't know how many of these folks are here today, and if you don't like your picture and you are here today, you should probably reach out to somebody to. So in the services division, if any of these folks are here, we have Camille Broadhead, Sydney von Niederhausen, Nydia Pimental, Ethan Smith, Kristen Field, Brian Field. Are they related? Okay, perfect. I was just curious. They kind of came as a package deal, and okay, perfect. And then Karina Molina. Are any of these folks here today? You might be up. Oh, there we go. That's Camille, right? There we go. Boom. There. Welcome, Camille. You're the only one we can formally welcome, but thank you for being here. Oh, that's Karina. Okay, there we are. Welcome, Karina. Thank you for being here. We're glad to have you on board. The services division sees a lot of new staff all the time with the various programs there, and so this is usually the largest group, and we're always happy to have you join our happy family. Research and training, I don't know, I didn't intend to put these back to back. So you have services with a lot. Research and training brought on Cassidy Haverkamp. Is Cassidy here? I don't think so. She's a URLN trainee who's going to be helping with some of the programs there. In the TA division, I know some of these people are here. We have Sydney Anderson, who's the new proofreader. Sydney here? Maybe not. No? Okay. Seth was here. I saw Seth sneak in. So Seth is right there next to Dave on the row doing behavior work. Carrie Shea. Is Carrie? Okay. Ronnie Dietrich and then Debbie Ballard. All have joined the TA division and are doing good work there. So if you see any of these folks, if you see faces that you don't recognize, please reach out and introduce yourself. Again, we're so busy out in the world that sometimes we don't pay attention to the folks who come and go through our midst. And so please try to reach out, and if you see some of these new faces, introduce yourself and make them feel welcome. Administrative division, I know this one's kind of funny. Jolynn Lyon here. Jolynn has worked with us for many years as a contractor. We finally convinced her to come on as an employee. Actually, I don't know that we convinced her. It's kind of a needs basis. So Jolynn is now officially a CPD employee, so we're happy to have Jolynn. She writes a lot of our blogs and does a lot of the PR for us. In the AT project, I don't know how many of you know Clay left. Clay moved to North Dakota. Why, I don't know. But why? But no, I do know why. His wife got a really good job out there in North Dakota. And so Clay, who was really a fixture in our lab, left. And we hired Garrett Halligan, who's the AT lab coordinator now. Garrett has an extensive background with Alpine Healthcare and has worked in various settings with assistive technology. Actually brings a really nice skill set to the project. So if you want to drop by the lab as you're walking on campus and want to drop by and see Garrett, you'll see the only other man. Well, I'm actually just jealous of his beard. That's all there. No matter what I do, it's not going to look that good. So. Bora Lee is a VISTA volunteer. We spent a year trying to find a VISTA volunteer to work with the AT project to do some multicultural diversity outreach, and Bora kind of came out of the woodwork and has filled a really nice niche with the AT project doing some of that. And I didn't see Bora here today, but if you see Bora around, please welcome her. Then Michael, how do I say this name, Lois? Luke, okay. So Michael Luke, who's going to be a wheelchair technician down in Salt Lake in the CREATE program. And then with the PSP Vista program, you have Maya Barton, who Maya's been around for a bit. Okay. Well, there we go. So. Perfect. Well, Maya, hi, and thanks for joining us from the office. It's good to have you on board. So a lot of new faces, which is a good thing. We also are saying goodbye to a few people. Some of you have heard this. Dr. Dennis Odell is retiring from the university after more than 30 years. Dr. Odell was the director of the CPD's biomedical clinic and has done a lot of work around autism and attention deficit disorder. He's really been a fixture here in the community. A lot of times when I tell people I work at the CPD, the person they know is Dr. Odell. So he's really made a name for himself here and has done tremendous service to us and our programs in terms of an ambassador with the community. And he's made a difference in the lives of hundreds, probably thousands of kids with disabilities. So he's not retiring completely. He'll still have his practice down at the Budge Clinic, but he felt that splitting his time and doing stuff here and then going back and forth was just stretching him too thin, and so he decided to sort of scale back his responsibilities. I always think it's funny. I've told this story before. Last spring, I had a chance to go out and meet with Sue Olson's mom. Can I tell the story about your mom? I think it's great. I went out and met with Sue's mom, and Sue's mom ran a medical office for many years, and of course, Sue's father, Dr. Thane, was really the original physician in the CPD's biomedical clinic. And Dr. Odell came in to sort of take over for Dr. Thane and was that transitional person. And when I met with Sue's mom, and this was just last year, she said, "How is that young whippersnapper Dr. Odell doing?" She talked about all of his newfangled ideas and other stuff that he brought in, and I think he's really done remarkable things with the clinic there. So we will be sad to see Dr. Odell go. The other person who's retiring from our clinic is George Wooten. George has been here for almost 18 years as a nurse practitioner. He has really done a remarkable job serving the population of adults with disabilities, and many of them with dual diagnosis, mental health, and intellectual developmental disabilities. Those of you who know George know he's very passionate about his work and is very compassionate for the population that he serves, and he has also made a remarkable contribution here. But again, he's decided that it's time to move on, and so we wish George the best as he goes on to bigger and better things. So, okay, there we go. No other retirements I know of. I think this has been a big retirement year. We've had Judith. I mean, every single meeting we've had retirements coming up, and that's kind of I think that trend will continue here for a bit. So, special recognitions. I think it's important to recognize staff and people who are doing good work. Those of you who attended our dinner, our holiday dinner, we started a new tradition there, the Spirit of Service Awards, and so I won't spend a lot of time on this because a lot of you were there, but we recognize John Whiting, Mary Ellen, Lois, and Patty for the good work that they do. This is going to be an ongoing tradition. As much as I like the potluck, I think it's nice to have a formal dinner with real silverware where we can sit down and have conversations. I'm a little bit old-fashioned that way. And these Spirit of Service Awards are going to be something to really, I think, recognize the service of people who largely go unrecognized but do a lot of the good work that's important to keeping the CPD running. So in terms of other recognitions, Marla Neff. Marla is in the back there next to Sue. And Janelle's back there too. No, oh, you moved. Okay. Marla and Janelle have spent a good portion of the last year, I think, getting the CEC, the Division of Early Childhood, back up and running here, and have taken a significant leadership role in that. So Marla Neff is now the president-elect, and Janelle is the vice president for the new CEC Utah chapter. So kudos to you for taking leadership and getting that back up and running. That's an important connection. Up to 3 also did some remarkable service by placing 10 students during the fall semester and expanding their dialogic reading groups to 2 additional community child care centers. So they're growing and doing good work. And then finally, Jason Parker, who is a VISTA volunteer with the AmeriCorps VISTA program, who's at South Cache Middle School, was chosen as a male role model for a student who had a difficult time connecting and trusting adults. Sounds like me. No, but he, I don't know how many of you know, and I know that we've done this in program coordinators meeting and other venues, the important work that the VISTA program does in terms of being these on-the-ground mentors and program coordinators in the schools and nonprofit organizations in the valley here and along the Wasatch Front. And it's always nice to see them be recognized. I know that Shauna and Ricky and the rest of the team over there do a tremendous amount of work to make a big difference in the community. And actually, Kelly and I were talking about this before you all came in. We don't see them a lot because they're out and about doing work in the community, but they have a big impact when we look at the end of the year sort of numbers and everything. It's remarkable, sort of that footprint that you leave in the lives of these at-risk youth and other populations here. So thank you for your work. So let's give all these people a round of applause. Okay, moving onward. New projects and programs. Again, these announcements come out occasionally in Sharon's monthly sort of staff updates. Those have gotten longer and longer as we do more and more. And so I pulled out a few that I think is worthwhile to highlight. And again, I think it's important that you know what projects are at the CPD so that when you're looking for collaborative opportunities, you can reach out to the right people. And a lot of times people don't know what exactly we do, the breadth of what we do. The Task 12 project, speaking of retirements, Byrne Jones, who worked with the Task 12 project for, over 20 years, John? It was a long time. Byrne retired this last year. We hired Jen Harvey to replace burn. And the Task 12 project, I don't know how many of you know what that is. They sort of train and certify sign language interpreters in the school across the country. So Jen came in earlier this fall, and the first thing she did was write a major grant to sort of expand the work that the Task 12 project does. And so they were awarded the Sign Language Interpreter Training Grant from the Utah Public Service Commission. This is $300,000 a year, I think, for 5 years. Yep. To get more sign language interpreters trained and in the schools here in Utah. And actually, that's where Jen and Norm are today. They emailed me last night. They're interviewing 26 candidates for to work on this project. So it is a significant project. It is a huge sort of growth piece for the Task 12 project, and we're grateful for Jen and for the TASTE team for your support in getting that up and running. UATP, the Assistive Technology Project, received a $2,500 donation from the Stokes Foundation, which supports some of the efforts between UATP and the Mechanical Engineering Department. I don't know how many of you pay attention to what goes on in the UATP, but there's always little stories in the news. This past year, they've done a lot of work with the Mechanical Engineering Department. I think one of the stories that I remember most is the one about the cordless, the wireless charging station for wheelchairs. And so they worked with the Mechanical Engineering Department for quite a while, but one of the issues with a wheelchair is having to find outlets and stuff to plug it into, and they worked with the engineering department to create this pad on the floor, kind of like a wireless charger for your phone, where you just have to set it on it, and it will charge it. And actually, I think made the USU magazine and several other, I don't know, Jolene, do you remember? I don't know, it was out there. But anyway, they do good work, and the Stokes Foundation has donated to help expand that work. Let's see, Lisa Boyce and Eduardo Ortiz, Eduardo's right there, have been awarded a CPD Faculty Fellows Award. This is an award that we created with the Associate Dean for Research, Jameson Fargo, to get College of Ed faculty members more involved in the work that we do at the CPD. So essentially what this does is it provides time for USU faculty members to come in and collaborate with our staff to expand a particular project. Now, these are not little projects, these are big projects. They are required to have 3 deliverables. They're supposed to have 2 peer-reviewed publication submissions and 1 grant application. So sort of committing to this is a big commitment. But Eduardo and Lisa have been working for quite a while on a partnership with the University of Casa Grande in Ecuador. And they've received a grant to sort of expand on that work, and they're doing some remarkable things there. The thing they don't recognize is they will be presenting to you at some point in the future about that work. Actually, you do know that. We talked about that. And then Mary Ellen McLean-Verdoes, who's in the psychology department, and Vicki Simmonsmeyer and Marty Toohill were also awarded a CPD Faculty Fellows grant that's focusing on reading fluency and comprehension in students with autism spectrum disorders. So we're looking forward to the outcomes of those. Those are great opportunities to really formalize the collaboration with the departments. Okay, what else? Picky eaters. Joy Green, who is not, I don't think Joy is here today. Joy is an occupational therapist in our services division. And April Litchford, who's a graduate student in dietetics, have started a picky eaters group over in the new Sorensen Center. Joy's been sort of running these informally off and on for the last few months, but it's grown. I understand that demand has increased exponentially. And so they're running this picky eaters group, and I don't know how long they take. Sue just ran away because she knew I was going to ask her a question. Okay. 4 weeks? Okay, so every 4 weeks you start a new group and run kids through. They're actually fun groups. I went by once in the summer, and they wanted me to demonstrate eating certain foods. But it's actually a huge need. Most people don't recognize sort of that correlation between food and behaviors, and food and what we eat and take into our bodies and how we eat it has such a huge impact on a lot of things down the line in terms of how our bodies perform and function and how we behave. And so this is sort of a new service, and we're glad that Joy is taking the lead on that. Alma and Mary Ellen have received funding through the Developmental Disabilities Council to teach an 8-week online course on social power. It's actually on power, privilege, and difference. It's part of, CDA stands for Certified Disability Advocate, and the DD Council has been running this for many years with somebody else. The curriculum that was being used was not ideal, and sort of we took that and retooled it. It's actually been in process for a very long time. But we finally got a pilot up. It starts next week? Yesterday. Okay, so it started yesterday. So anyway, it's something that we hope we'll be able to continue. It's a great curriculum that really teaches you about these notions of privilege, difference, power, and advocacy. And so we'll see. We're of course sort of doing the pilot now. We'll see how that goes. But the hope is that this is something that will grow and be able to market across the country. So there is that. And then finally, we have the Employment and Community Integration Capacity Building Center. This is in progress. Actually, the funding's supposed to be here in March. We just finished the last little bit on it, I think. But Tim Reeson and I have been working with DSPD over the past year to create a technical assistance and training center here at the CPD around community integration and competitive and integrated employment and provider transformation. So we're going to be taking over a lot of the training, technical assistance, and marketing functions that DSPD has been doing around the settings rule transformation. This is going to actually be a huge undertaking. Will allow us to bring in quite a few new staff and will sort of put us on the forefront of sort of changing how disability services are delivered here in Utah. We're really excited about this opportunity to build on some of Tim's work and then to expand some of what we do here at the CPD to more of a Medicaid and home and community-based services population. So you will hear a lot more about this. We'll actually have quite a few positions that we'll be hiring to support this one. And so please watch for those. Any help that we can get getting information out and recruiting a good participant pool for this would be greatly appreciated. Whew. And you want to know what? This is only a small fraction of the work that we all do. This is just some of the bigger ones that are kind of going, that are a little more high profile. There are and I am extraordinarily grateful for everybody's hard work in doing this. I do think that we are making a difference. In terms of making a difference, it's important that when we are doing this work, you're going to love this, that we be publishing and really disseminating our results. This is becoming increasingly important when we're going for grants and contracts. People, especially in the federal level, are looking to see whether we are published, whether we are authorities within our field. And so getting the word out about the work that we do, the data that we gather, and the difference that we make is exceptionally important. We've had a good run here since September. I just went back to September to sort of highlight some of the big publications, and these are peer-reviewed publications. There's a lot of publications that we also get that are not peer-reviewed, that are in more popular press or online forums. But these are just peer-reviewed publications. So Tim Reeson's had 2 in the Journal of Vocational Rehabilitation and the Journal of Rehabilitation. Eduardo and Lisa have one that's in press right now. Lexi, there you are, Lexi. I know, I talked to her about this yesterday. Lexi's had this one in process for 2 years. And okay, it's a long time coming, but again, a lot of these things take time to get out there. Lexi got one. Mark Innocenti just had one accepted to the it's a chapter actually in the Encyclopedia of Infant and Early Childhood Development. Cindy and George had a publication in Jared. WebAIM had actually quite a bit in the proceedings of why my brain's not working. The 2018 ICT Accessibility Testing Symposium, which actually publishes articles that go along with it. It's an actual proceedings, which is nice. You don't get to just submit and show up with a PowerPoint. You actually have to write something for it. So it's it's impressive. And I would highly recommend some of these are locked down behind paywalls, unfortunately. You can go through the library to get them. I read Cindy, George, and Jared's just earlier this last week. I would highly recommend that if you have a chance, when these staff communications come out from Sharon, read about the work that we're doing. It's impressive. It really is impressive. And again, I think it's a way of really recognizing that we're doing more than what we see on the surface. Okay, with that said, thinking about reporting, thinking about getting things out there, NEARS. It's your favorite. If that is not me, I need to clarify. This is Shia LaBeouf. Yeah. If you haven't seen his video, you should go watch it. But no, that's what my kids said. My kids are like, why are you on there? It's not me. But NEARS. NEARS, I don't need to tell many of you this. Some of the new people I do. NEARS is our National Information Reporting System. It is how we report what we do and gauge our impact with our federal funding agencies. It is a pain in the butt, but it is necessary. This is this database where we report what we do, the people that we trained, our publications, our presentations, important boards that you sit on. All these things are gathered in NEARS, and federal agencies use this database to look at our impact and to gauge our impact. It's not just Health and Human Services or the Administration on Community Living. It goes across many federal agencies. And so this is part of sort of maintaining that reputation, and our competitiveness on a federal level is getting our NEARS entered. So just a reminder, get in there and get it done. You will see more emails from Kelly over the next few months reminding you to get it in there. The drop dead date, just so everyone knows, is the end of June to get everything in, and then I get to use July to do reporting. But ideally, we like to have everything in there by the end of June so that we can do our federal reports and get that out. Did you have something, Kelly?
The drop dead date is the end of June, but you can enter data any time.
Yes.
And it's a lot easier if you keep up with it. It really is.
It is. It is. Yes. There's many ways to do it. I know some folks, when they do a training, immediately go in and enter it. Once you enter it once, it's easier to do it again. You can carry records over. If you have questions or concerns on how to do this, talk to Kelly. Some people do it quarterly, some people do it monthly. Whatever it is, just make sure you're regular about getting that data in. So anyway, there you go. That's my NEARS spiel for today. Slack. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly and Jolynn. So I will lay a little bit of context here, and then I'm going to let them sort of provide this case study. So I think it's important to highlight teams that are working effectively together. The PR team has been remarkable in how effective they've been at communicating with people who are not in the office frequently. They're sort of out and about and in the community. And they have really embraced the Slack platform and put it to good use, I think. I know that if you haven't been in there before, or if you've only gone in a couple of times, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but I think there are certain advantages to it that get us out of our email inboxes, that make communication more transparent and make work a little more efficient. So with that said, Kelly and Jolynn have a little show for you, I think. You want me to pull up Slack? Okay. Where is Slack? There it is. Okay. There we go. Do you want PR or social media?
It's not going up
Oh, I should end the presentation. Nope. Okay, we're getting there. Maybe not. Just joking.
It's a nice thought.
Why? Huh. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Boom. And There you go.
Perfect.
All right, you're on.
So, as Matt said, I'm Kelly. I think I know most of you. I do a lot of information-related tasks in the center, but one of my main jobs is public relations. And I'm fortunate to work with a team of really efficient, really talented people who help me. And pretty well, I shouldn't even say help me, we just do this. But for the sake of this presentation today, when I was thinking about it, I thought, well, I guess they are my team of slackers. So, as Matt mentioned, we're kind of a scattered group. We're rarely in the same room. Slack has been a really good way for us to kind of have a constant communication that is, it's a great task management tool. We've increased our productivity, we've increased our accuracy. The problems you always have with emails going back and forth is sometimes you hit reply all, sometimes you don't. You're not sure if everyone's seeing it who needs to. And that's just one of the problems with email. If you read this, I think we all face this. You're trying to be focused on one project and there's 9,000 emails coming in. And they're all distracting. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I just, why did it do that? Where'd it go? This is your computer. Good grief, do you have enough on here?
Oh, wow, that was shocking.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Slack provides you with, you can create channels, and you'll notice those over there on the side. We run most of our stuff, yeah, Amy? Slack, pretty much. I'll explain a little bit about it here. It's an online system you can access, or it's an app that you load onto your phone or a mobile device. And when you go into it, you've got these channels down the side which you can join. Our PR marketing channel that I'm on here right now, Jolynn and Story and I communicate with each other through that all the time, and it's pretty much ongoing. We don't have to worry about sending out emails, answering emails. I can get up in the morning, glance at this, know exactly what's happening in our PR world. Story wasn't able to make it today. One of the things that she was going to talk about that's really handy is you can integrate a lot of other systems into Slack. We have our Twitter feed. Oh, I keep doing this.
Just click there. And there, just click. No,
just click there?
Just click there, yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
We have our Twitter feed. We have our, we have Google Docs. We have several other things like that integrated into our system. So I don't have to go to Twitter to see what's going on in PR. I can see it right through here. If we're sharing Google Docs, you don't have to go back over there to open it up. You can just access it through here. It kind of looks like chaos when you first look at it, but believe me, this is controlled chaos. It is so much more efficient. When I post something there, I know that Jolynn's going to see it. I know that Story's going to see it. You can also tag people specifically, and then you know for sure that they will see it. You can do private messaging through it as well. Besides the main PR channel, we've got a couple of others that are for the blog. It's there if I want to go access it for a print article. It's always in there. I guess I kind of covered that. The best thing that I can really say about Slack is it's just really simplified our process. It's not like going through email because you're not constantly getting distractions. It's focused and it's transparent. Like Matt said, we we all know. I want to let Jolynn talk about some of the things she likes about it. But Story was ill today and couldn't come. She sent me a few notes. She was just mentioning the integration. She says the benefits of embedding these services means no switching between windows, everyone's notified at the same time, and it allows multiple monitors, like our Twitter feed has monitors for spam. So it keeps everybody up to date. Channels can also be dedicated to different topics for training or whatever you want. Story runs a channel called Social Media Hipsters that several of the other project social media managers, if we've got questions, they'll post on there. We can help them with it. Story's posted a Google Doc with a list of all of our CPD projects. She's posted some federal accessibility hacks. I'm sorry, I'm so hoarse. Anyway, but I would really encourage you to give this a try. I can't stress how much more efficient I feel that we are as a team through the use of this product. I'll let Jolynn come up now and talk a little bit more about what she's found useful about it. So here's Slacker Jolynn.
Hi. So I thought I would pretty much just give you a case study of how we've used Slack, and in fact there was a good example today. But before I do that, I just want to emphasize also, one of the things I really like about this, it's better than email, it's better than Box, because I can see the photos without having to open them. And anytime I put a photo up, I can include a little bit of information, maybe on how I would like it used, or who it is, you know. So those messages that I'm able to attach to the photos are really useful when we're working with each other. As Kelly mentioned, we deal with the same information, but we use it in different ways. And so a lot of times we'll hear about something and we'll kind of chat about it on Slack about, okay, do we want to do a blog post about this? Do we want to do a media pitch on it? And if we do, that's going to change how we handle the social media part of it. So it's really good that we're all together on the same page, and that those conversations are all just kind of grouped around the information, you know, attached to the photo or whatever. Oh, I should have worn my glasses. I'm so sorry.
Which one are you looking for?
I am looking for policy. Here it is.
Yep.
Okay. Earlier today, Matt posted this flyer on policy. And through Slack, Kelly and I had discussed that I would not be available for that phone call between Sachin and the CPD regarding policy. And so she took some notes. She messaged them to me on Slack. Matt posted this flyer, and as I looked at it, I was like, you know, if I move this around a little bit, we could probably turn it into a blog post. So Kelly and I messaged each other back and forth on that. Eventually, I asked her, do you have any photos? This is, again, all through Slack. She's told me where to look for some good photos. I was able to get those done, and I'll just show you at the very end. PR marketing types is right there. Okay. So right at the end, I was able to post a link to our blog. So Story's got that. She can push that out through our social media, through Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I also posted the photo just in case it's easier to work with the photo than the link. So yeah, we've all got it. We can all refer back to that and use it later, and it's just so convenient. So any questions? Yes? And I may need to defer that question to Matt, because I know that I was invited to a lot of these groups. I know that we started, like Story started the social media hipsters, and we started the PR marketing one. Yeah, I'll turn that over to Matt.
I'll try to answer that. So if you join Slack, and is this somebody's book? I don't want to, is that yours? No, you're good. If you join Slack and just look for USU has a workspace. We have our own separate workspace, USU CPD, that's just for CPD projects. So and I would have to invite you to that. You might be able to find it. I think you should be able to find it. It's usucpd.slack.com, and you should be able, it should show up. It's not closed. And so you have multiple work groups that are down the side here. So this is our CPD space. We use this for the Mental Health and Intellectual Disabilities National Training Center grant. We're collaborating with Alaska and Kentucky, and email was just outrageous. Trying to really work across a distance with a large team, email was not working. It was just too many people. People were left off of messages. You're just going back and forth. You feel like you're living on email. This is a messaging platform that allows everybody to see everything across Alaska, Kentucky, and other locations, and we don't have to always be going back and forth with email and forgetting everyone may not see it. So for project management, sharing documents, all sorts of stuff, it's all in here. It's sort of the entire conversation. It's like an ongoing meeting, essentially, in one space. So I know that some of you are not part of the USU CPD. Some people are actively using this. Some people, I invited everybody. I've actually invited everybody at least 2 times. I haven't done it for a few months now. I probably need to send out a new invite to everybody to remind you. But again, I cannot require people to use this. I just think it's something that has been remarkably effective with a lot of the teams in terms of opening up communication and just being a little more efficient. So I'm trying to encourage others to embrace new technology. It eliminates, I think, a lot of the problems that we struggle with in email. So. How many of you actually use Slack on a regular basis? Okay, WebAIM, okay. So Vista, AmeriCorps, Seth does, Sue, Aggie's Elevated has a channel on there. I mean, if you want, so let me actually walk you through briefly the channels that are on the USU CPD space, and not all of them are up here. Yes?
Let me add one more thing. One thing that we have found really useful is everything that's in Slack is so searchable. Yep. You can click up in the corner, all the images and documents you've ever placed pop up, or all of them within the channel. Or you can search by a word. It's so easy to find information that's way back in the channel.
Yep. So, yeah, it's kind of like your email on steroids. And in a good way, yeah. And you know how efficient this would be if you've ever found yourself searching through your email inbox trying to find that message where somebody attached a document and you can't find it. This eliminates a lot of those issues. So in terms of some of the basic channels, we have an accessibility channel that we created several years ago to ask questions about accessibility as we were doing the staff professional development with John and Cindy. We have an Ask the Director channel where people can post questions to me. We have a brainstorm channel where people post ideas, if you have new ideas for projects and other things. CPD data, this is one for Kelly. Actually, nobody's on there. Nobody wants to talk about CPD data. I know. We have a diversity channel. We have a general channel. We have high-low, which is sort of people sharing a high point or a low point of their day, just something that you're struggling with. Our mental health grant, name and brand. So actually last summer when we were talking about renaming, we started this name and brand channel. A lot of you were invited. There's actually 55 of you on it to have a discussion about what the new name of the CPD should be. So quite a few of you participated there. We started a policy channel yesterday for all policy discussions. PR marketing, a random one. Mark particularly likes the random one for posting community events, so I always like to see what Mark puts up there. The social media hipsters, if you're interested in social media and kind of what's going on there and need support from Story or Rachel or some of the other social media managers, this is a great place. And then we have private channels too, U of U consults around redesigning clinical services and stuff. And there's other channels that I don't have on mine. Aggie's Elevated, it sounds like, has one. WebAIM has one. You have your own channel, right? Or your own workspace?
We do. We don't utilize it.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, again, I don't require it, but again, I found it to be so remarkably valuable that I want to share it with you and encourage you in your various projects or with the various teams that you work on to consider using it as a way of communication. If you're like me and that cartoon that Kelly put up is actually really true. My job could be just answering email all day. If I chose to, I could just do email all day and fill all of my time just doing email and doing nothing else. And this sort of this has actually helped streamline and make that a lot more efficient because I don't have to go through chronologically and look at all the messages. I can see them all in one space and sort of get caught up in one glance. I don't have to click through. If you find that that's a challenge for you, you may want to consider this. When we are done with this meeting, I will send out new invites to everybody on the all and the hourly listserv to the CPD workspace. And again, if you have questions or concerns, you can post them here on Slack or you can email me or Kelly, and we'd be happy to help. Does anybody else have any questions before I move on? Yes? Sorry, we'll wait for the mic. Thank you, Jeff.
Just out of curiosity, I was wondering if the people that are using this all the time are using the app on their phone mostly, or are they at their computer usually?
I'm using both, and I think that's true across the board. Probably 70% of what I do, I'm at my computer because a lot of it's while I'm at work. But sometimes it's kind of one of the good bad things, but mostly good, where Jolene and Story and I are all going in different directions all the time. A lot of times we'll get a notification, we're out somewhere else, it's on the phone, we can respond.
Yeah.
And they all work pretty well. They're a little bit different from the desktop to the mobile version, but both of them are pretty easy once you just kind of dive in.
Yep.
I've noticed I use the app a lot more just for communication. If I'm going to be moving documents around or dealing with photos, I'd much rather do that at the desktop. So.
And I am almost 95% desktop. I don't use the app much at all. I think it just depends. Other questions? I can't see anybody beyond Richard. I just see Richard and Amy and Jacqueline. Okay. A few months ago, I sent out sort of some videos and some readings about Slack. I will resend that so that if you sort of glossed over that, you have it again. Again, I just think when we look at the way that communication is moving and the way that this has sort of helped in terms of inter-organizational, inter-project communications, not just here at the CPD, but this is the main messaging platform for many large corporations and other large companies because of how efficient it is in terms of ensuring everybody's on the same page. I just want to share that because I think it's valuable. So, okay, let's go back. Let's see if I can be a little more efficient about getting back to where I was. Okay. So that's Slack and a case study. Thank you, Kelly and Jolene, for sharing. Okay, performance reviews. Speaking of that time of year, it's that time of year. About a week ago, I sent out an email with the performance review form attached to it. Some of you may or may not know, we actually worked over the last year to try to move our performance reviews online and to have a completely online system so that we could move away from paper forms. That ended up being a little more problematic and it entailed a little more time than we had, so that we're going to have to go with the paper-based version again this year. So if you can go back to that email I sent out, the form's on there. If you do not have it, you can contact Sharon. She has a copy of the performance evaluation form. Full-time benefited staff, that's, you know who you are. You need to meet with your supervisors to complete your annual performance evaluation by March 29th. So most supervisors will reach out and make a time for you to meet with them. If your supervisor hasn't, you can certainly be proactive and reach out to them and try to set up a time. The way that this process goes, if you've been through it before, you fill out the form, there's a set of standards in there. You provide evidence for how you met those standards. You send it to your supervisor, they meet with you, they go through it, they provide comments on the various standards and towards the end. And then they send it back to you. You make any revisions, you send it back to them, print it out, sign it, and it goes to Sharon. It is a little bit of a back and forth process. It's a collaborative sort of a deal where you're providing evidence, you're getting feedback from your supervisor, and then you're setting goals that you're going to work towards for the next year. It's important that as you go through those standards that you provide evidence of how you met them. Don't just check, yes, I met it. If you met it, tell us how. Last year, a lot of people just did the check boxes. At least provide some evidence for how you met the standard. Be reflective and think about it. A lot of people say, so some of the standards, safety is one of the standards. And a lot of people say, well, safety doesn't apply to me. I'm not working with sharp objects. It's actually not true. Safety applies to everybody. And when you think about safety, people are thinking about occupational safety, right? Sort of workplace safety. But when I met with the folks last year that I supervise, I said, you got to think about this more broadly. Do you create a safe environment for the people you work with? Do people feel safe with you? Are you aware, right, of, if we want to go all the way to safety, are you aware of, the evacuation plans at the CPD? Are you aware of other safety protocols? It applies to everybody across the board. So entrepreneurial was another one that people said, well, I don't have to be entrepreneurial, I'm just administrative staff or something like that. Everybody can be entrepreneurial in the place where you work. Being entrepreneurial doesn't mean that you're bringing in money necessarily, it's a mindset. And it's a mindset of problem solving and trying to find new opportunities and trying to address those problems and really taking advantage of those opportunities. So when you read it, be reflective. Think about how are you being entrepreneurial? Even if your job just entails answering the phones, are you trying to identify ways to do that better? And if so, you're being entrepreneurial. Make sure that when you fill it out, you carry over your goals from last year's to this one and provide evidence for how you met each goal. So again, goals was something that has not been done at the CPD. Prior to last year, it was sort of an optional thing. Last year, when we put this new process in place, I asked everybody to come up with 2 to 3 goals. I think it's important that we do that to ensure that we have something that we work towards. So I want you to carry those over, provide evidence for how you met them, and then goals should be in line with division priorities. If you're in technical assistance division or in your project priorities, make sure you know what the goals of the division are, and that the goals that you're pursuing are sort of supportive and in line with those goals. Know what the mission of the CPD is. Are your goals supporting the mission of the CPD? Are they supporting the vision of the CPD? Are they in line with our core goals? If you don't know what the core goals are, well, we'll get to that. We have monthly brown bags where we talk about our core goals. You should all be able to name them off the top of your heads, hopefully, right? Healthcare, mental health, employment, transition, personnel preparation, and accessibility. There's 6 goal areas that we work on here. And your goals that you put down on your performance evaluation should be supporting those overall goals. And then I'm trying to think, and then full-time staff who are program coordinator or project director roles or have a master's degree or higher should provide evidence regarding their efforts to generate funding for their position. This is something that we sort of implemented last year too. But because we're largely a soft money funded organization, it's everybody's responsibility, especially those senior level staff, to be taking an active role in generating funds to support themselves and their projects. So again, we want to see evidence for what you've done to really move forward with that aspect of your position. I know that's a little bit daunting. People don't like performance reviews. But we don't get better unless we get feedback. And unfortunately, we try to avoid feedback. We're all nice human services people. We don't want to bring up the difficult issues, but if we don't address them, they just sort of fester. And so it's important to use this as an opportunity for some honest discussions and for honest feedback with the people that you work with. So there we go. Bill Gates said it right there. We all need people who will give us feedback. That's how we improve. I can't say it better than that. Although it's not required, really the only people who have to fill out the performance evaluation are full-time benefited staff, but I would still like to highly encourage supervisors to meet with hourly and part-time staff to discuss expectations and provide feedback. You don't need to fill out the form and do the whole rigmarole, but I think it's worthwhile at least once or twice a year to sit down with all your staff and to make sure that everybody is getting feedback to know whether they're meeting expectations or not. If you look at the research, and I know you're all looking at this, I do, unfortunately, I'm a little nerdy that way. Research has shown that regular feedback increases motivation and elevates engagement. It enhances career development. When you have goals to work towards, you're going to get better, which leads to increased performance individually and collectively. So, again, I know that people sometimes see the performance review process as a hoop you have to jump through. I want it to be an opportunity for you to think critically about what you do and how you do it and to get feedback. So if you have questions or concerns about it, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. If you're a supervisor and don't know how to have a difficult conversation, I'm happy to help. If you don't know how to fill it out, if you can't find the form, if you have concerns about what constitutes evidence, please let me know and I will help you. Okay. Actually, I think, I do have one more. Here we go. This is kind of how we all approach performance reviews sometimes, right? Sometimes doing a good job at work is like wetting your pants in a dark suit. You get a warm feeling, but nobody else notices. At least once a year with the performance review process, you should be able to sit down and tell somebody they're doing a good job at something. We all are doing a good job at something, and we all have areas that we can improve. It shouldn't be like wearing a dark suit and wetting your pants. We should all at least have one opportunity throughout the year to get that feedback. So, okay, questions or concerns about performance evals before I move on? Okay, I cannot wait until this is online, because I get the lovely privilege of actually getting all these paper copies and having to read through and sign every single one. It's a bit of a daunting pile. Sharon will tell you it sits in my office and I avoid it because of how painful it is sometimes to go through each one. But I do read them all, I do pay attention, and I do sign every last one of these performance evaluations. But it is a big stack of paper. Okay, if you have questions or concerns, let me know. So how are we doing as an organization? If we're going to talk about performance evaluations, I think it's worthwhile to talk about how is the CPD doing in general. And I have to thank Richard for pulling this together. So although there's many ways to judge how an organization is doing, because we're a soft money shop, one of the key ways we do that is by just program income. We would not have jobs if we're not out there hustling, trying to bring in new projects and contracts. We all know that every other department here on campus, they're pretty secure in their jobs. They get funding from the state. They don't have to go write grants and contracts. We do. And as a result, this is kind of how we measure success. So this year to date, we have brought in $16,532,689.26. Which is about $2 million ahead of where we were last year. Last year at this time we were at about $14.2 million. So we're actually having a really good year, and a lot of that is directly attributable to your hard work and efforts. And so I would like to give everybody a round of applause. Thank you. You know, there's a few trends on here that are worth noting. Our state and local has gone up significantly, which is not surprising. There hasn't been a whole lot of federal, but we have brought in some larger federal projects, which that's up a bit from last year as well. Again, and we have many ways that this money comes in. If you see there at the bottom, we have 193 different income streams or indexes that people are paid off of, which usually means we have about 193 different projects or programs. That's a lot of projects and programs running through here. That's a little bit less than last year, but we're only halfway through the year. We still have all the way through July. I'm expecting, I think last year we had 230 something income streams, which I would expect, given what I know is coming in, we may surpass that this year as well. We currently have 246 employees. 106 of them are benefited full-time, and 140 are hourly. This is a little bit down because we've had some retirements and some other programs go, but in general, we're a large and healthy organization. So how about that? That's exciting. Yay. Okay, we'll give ourselves another round of applause, because I do, you applaud money. It's not all about money, but unfortunately, if we don't bring in money, we don't have jobs. And so it's kind of it's a little bit important. We also, bringing in the funding, to be just brutally honest, is kind of how we prove our value to the college. We are the largest generator of extramural funding in the college, and most years we're the largest generator of extramural funding at the entire Utah State University. And so we're we're kind of a big deal. Space Dynamics Lab occasionally beats us, but yeah. So let's talk a little bit about where we're going. So we're actually thriving and growing quite a bit, but with that comes a need to sort of change and rebrand what we do. And so as I pointed out when we talked about Slack, we had that name and brand channel where we had a discussion over the summer and over the fall about potential new names for the CPD. None of them really struck me, and so that's why I sent out, we sort of condensed and consolidated everybody's feedback, and I put out that survey a couple weeks ago, and 70 people responded, which is pretty good. Not as many as I would like to see, but pretty good. And according to that survey, the overwhelming support was for the first one on there, which was the Utah Institute on Leadership and Education in Applied Disability Studies, or Utah LEADS Institute. Just for those of you who haven't been here a long time, just to go back in terms of history and why it's necessary to consider renaming ourselves, the CPD was named the Center for Persons with Disabilities back in the 80s. Back in the 80s, saying a person with a disability, that person first language, was kind of a revolutionary thing, and it really set us apart from other organizations. As people first language has become more and more accepted, and as other programs have adopted this, well, just the term disability instead of handicap, we've sort of disappeared in terms of our identity. When I tell people I work at the Center for Persons with Disabilities, they're like, oh, I have somebody who wants to go to USU who has a disability. Can they come to you and get support? They think we're the DRC, frequently, the Disability Resource Center. And the Center for Persons with Disabilities doesn't really describe the full scope of what we do. Another thing that was a little bit problematic when I came in 2 years ago and I looked at sort of the list of projects, we're a center with a whole bunch of centers underneath us. So we're the Center for Persons with Disabilities. We also have a project called the Center for IDEA Financial Reporting, Fiscal Reform, what is it, Shauna? Fiscal Reporting, Center for IDEA Fiscal Reporting. We have TACE, which is actually the Center for Technical Assistance and Excellence in Special Education. That's a center. We have the new National Training Center on Mental Health and Intellectual Disabilities. Oh, I had a whole list of these, and now I'm in front of people, and I'm going to forget them all. There's a few other, there's the National Center on Disability Access and Education, the NCDAE. There's two others that I can't remember. And so we're a center with lots of these other centers underneath it, which is why we, one reason that the Institute name came out there. But when we did the survey, we looked at the 70 responses. 60% of folks felt that this was their number one choice. The next closest was way back, and it was one of the centers on Institute on Community Integration. But what this does is it gives us a little broader picture of what we do. It's a little bit, the acronym itself, Utah Leads, we want to be viewed in a leadership role. And for a very long time, the CPD was viewed in a leadership role. But that is slowly, I think, diminished over time. And this puts a very clear leadership stamp on what we do. We should be leading the field when we're talking about disability services. And this puts that right out front there. So I have proposed this name to the dean. We're going through the process of getting proper university approvals. Along with sort of this rebranding and a PR we're going to develop a PR campaign and over the spring and the summer, and hopefully be able to launch whole sort of rebranding in August of 2019. We're going to be making a video to do some PR. We're going to be coming up with a style sheet, so we have a new logo and a new word mark and everything else that's going to sort of encapsulate this. And so you'll have opportunities to participate in that process as we go through it. So it's been a long time coming, and I know that there are those who are reticent about making this change, but based upon feedback for the last 6 months, CPD, although I understand we're at the top of our search results in terms of internet searches, when you put in CPD, we pop right up. It just has become a little bit of an anachronism and not quite descriptive, nor is it aspirational, I think, in terms of what we are and what we want to become. So anyway, before I move on, does anyone have any thoughts, feedback, questions? Yep, that's exactly what we're going to do. Yep. So, and we're going to actually have, elevator speeches, sort of how you're going to tell people what you do. So people seem to think that we don't have to do that now. I say I work for the Center for Persons with Disabilities. Oh, I have somebody who has a disability. Can they come see you at the university? And I have to explain, no, we are a University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. We do education, research, training, technical assistance on disability and disability services. Can you tell I've done that a lot? I mean, there's no way to really encapsulate what we do in one term, whether it's CPD or Utah Leads Institute or anything else. And it's going to take time for us to build that identity. But again, that's why we're taking a few months here to build a branding and a relaunch strategy so that it's going to get out there broadly. People are going to understand, hopefully, who we are, and it's going to give us a new identity. It does take, having that elevator speech is an important part, and really trying to be able to explain where you work. A lot of people don't even say they work at the CPD. A lot of folks just say they work for a project, right? A lot of people say I work at TACE. A lot of people say I work at Up to 3. A lot of people say I work at DSL or WebAIM. CPD never even comes into it. And we want to have sort of maybe an identity where people want to identify with it. I'm not sure, again, CPD is not as descriptive as I think it could be in terms of who we are and what we want to do. So other questions or concerns? Dave?
Matt, I just wanted to hear you speak to the applied disability studies and heavy on the studies and what's being got at with that particular term. I have a sense of it, but I wanted to hear the story behind it.
So part of this is related to, I don't know how nerdy you want me to get here. A little nerdy? Okay. Fields have, especially in the social sciences, have bodies of literature behind them that support what they do. A lot of what we do is supported by the body of literature in disability studies. Now, certainly there is special education, there are other content areas that inform it, but in terms of a USED mission, and sort of an overarching conceptual framework, disability studies is that field. Now, the problem with disability studies or women's studies or gender studies or racial, I'm trying to think, critical race studies, I mean, you have a lot of these fields that are similar, is that frequently they're theoretical. They are just focused on, you know, the theory, the ideas, and are not necessarily applied. And so, in one of the conversations, and actually multiple conversations, is like, how do we communicate that we're doing things? That we're not just thinking about ideas, we're actually applying these ideas and creating programs that work. And so that's where the applied piece comes from. So part of it is that disability studies, what informs what we do. Applied is that we're actually doing things out in the community. The other piece is that we're working on a disability studies minor, which will be a leading partner on with the Department of Special Education. So that's going to be part of what we do. We also have a disability studies doctoral program that we staff and lead. So it's kind of a core component of who we are. But in terms of trying to find a broad theoretical body of literature that maybe captures what we do, disability studies seem to make the most sense. I couldn't say leadership and excellence in special education, because we do much more than special education or early intervention or accessibility or any of these other things. And so what was a body that sort of captured and could provide an overarching framework for that? Does that make sense? Kind of? Yeah? Maybe? Other questions?
Matt, did you ever consider maybe dropping Utah? Because a good share of our funding and our clients are outside of the state of Utah.
Yeah.
And to me, Utah is somewhat limiting. So, yeah, just...
We certainly could. Yeah, I'd be fine being the Leeds Institute. The reason Utah's up there is that Utah leads, the URL is available. No. I'm not sure that I haven't checked the Leeds Institute alone, but Utah Leads and Utah Leads Institute is available. And we could actually snatch that up and it would give us a pretty good identity. There is, yes. So yeah, we and again, this has to go through university. There's going to be some feedback from the university naming committee, but I would be fine with dropping Utah because you're right. Last year we worked in 43 different states. The majority of what we do is not in Utah as an organization, and so that makes sense, John. Thank you. Other questions or thoughts? Folks are talking. I know there's going to be talking. I know, again, picking a name like this is not easy, and there's going to be people who agree and disagree, and I'm well aware of that. But again, when I first came in, one of the first things that I was asked was, would we be changing the name? And I think I was pretty clear right up front that eventually we would, and sort of the time has come to do that. So we're going to proceed with this, and I will keep everybody in the loop as we hear back from the university. The university could say no, but we will see where it goes. The process has begun. So, okay. So I'm going to take a few minutes here with this notion of renaming and rebranding to share a few ideas with you. I try to use these as professional development opportunities, and the next one in the summer, our next meeting is going to be sort of a state of the state. But what I want to do is sort of lay a framework for when we're talking about renaming and rebranding what we do at the CPD, sort of some ideas for this direction. Part of the nerdy thing that I do is I spend way too much time thinking about this place. Way too much time thinking about this place. And starting this year, I've started taking about a week off to do what I call a think week. Bill Gates used to do this. A lot of folks do this where you sort of hide away. You do a lot of reading and professional development and really focus thinking about the organization. Really trying to focus on that big picture stuff. On a day-to-day basis, again, I could spend all day in my email dealing with minutia, and which is fine, which is also important. But a lot of times when we're thinking about, we forget that there's a broader organization and a broader vision. And so this year, I spent actually 3 days. I didn't get a full week to think about this place. And there's a few things that came out of that I think are important, and some of this is driving some of the changes, and will be driving some of the conversations that we have over the next year. And a lot of this is informing that innovation is a value. Last year when we did our strategic planning, we launched our guiding values. We identified innovation, inclusion, collaboration, and caring as our 4 guiding values. I would say inclusion, collaboration, and caring we all do pretty regularly. Innovation's a little bit harder. And so a lot of the focus of my thinking was around how do we cultivate innovation, and what does it mean to be innovative in the human services? So as I went through this, I was trying to think, what is the CPD? And what does the CPD do? And so the CPD, as we think about it, is not, and it can't be anymore in our current modern context, an independent entity striving for self-preservation. Although we go back to those dollars, and it's important to bring those in and to sort of maintain our funding, we're not an independent entity. We don't work alone. Everything that we do is in collaboration with somebody, a funder, a community partner, the clients and consumers that we serve. Everything is part of this collaborative approach. In fact, I like to think of the CPD as a community, as I say there. And we serve this community, right? So we're the hub of a community, and we serve this community, and we do that by building and investing and connecting all the stakeholders in that community through our efforts, through what we do. And I think this is an interesting metaphor. Not thinking of ourselves as this entity, not thinking of our project, this is all we do. We like to, it shifts the way that you approach people and work with people when you think of your work and what you do as a community. It's more nurturing. It ends up where you're cultivating longer-term relationships. You're not using somebody else for what you can get from them. You recognize that you are interdependent and need the other members of the community. And when one member of the community succeeds, you are also succeeding. A lot of this innovation and a lot of this community building is happening online through technology, which is one of the reasons I wanted to share with Slack with you today. Technology is driving innovation in the human services. And like I say here, we can expand what we do by embracing new technologies that will ensure that populations that are underserved in rural and other parts of our state, country, or world have access to the information and services that we can provide. There's a lot of places outside of Utah. I would say Utah's a little bit behind the curve in terms of embracing technology in the human services. But if you look at some of the human service models in California and Massachusetts, Indiana, Illinois, the way that they are using technology to give people access to information, services, supports that they couldn't get any other way is absolutely remarkable. And I think that as we think about the future of the CPD, I think we need to keep in mind, how are we embracing and building on technology to expand what we do? I know that we're doing this in clinical services and thinking about telemedicine and some of the outreach that we do there, but how, as you think about how you can do more, how can you use technology to drive innovation in your project, in your field? So I mean, when we think about the attributes of an innovative human service agency, and so these are broad, sort of, again, agencies that serve people, if you and this could be a state agency, this could be an organization like the CPD, but a lot of these agencies are characterized by many projects serving diverse needs. But when we look at the research on innovative human service agencies, there's some commonalities that come out. So innovative human service organizations are clear about the purpose of innovation and delivering outcomes and reducing operational expenses, and they achieve those results at a higher rate than their peers. So if we look at this, innovative human service agencies are more successful at reaching different citizens groups and demographics, and if you compare organizations that are considered innovative and not, it's 59.3 to 40, almost 20% difference, right, in terms of who they're able to reach and how effective they are at it. Innovative human service agencies discontinue programs or services that are not performing well or meeting outcomes. And actually that's at a huge rate, right? That's 73.3% versus 41.9%. I've worked at several university centers like this, and I've spent my career in university centers like this, and the one thing that I saw coming up through all these centers was this need to sort of hold on to programs and projects even though they'd grown outdated and were not delivering outcomes. I think it's really important, and this is going to be something that we do this year, that we evaluate our programs and that we say, is this program actually serving a need? And is this a program that we need to maintain? Everything takes effort and resources, but if it's not serving a need and it's not delivering an outcome, we shouldn't keep doing it, right? That's the definition of insanity, keeping, and I'm going to totally butcher this quote, right? Doing something that doesn't work in spite of the evidence. I can't, anyway, there you go. That's a butchered quote. You've all heard it. So the other thing that these innovative organizations do is they reduce human errors by customers or employees, 66.7% versus 41.9%. This is really important when we're talking about our dissemination efforts and the people that we serve. This has been something that we've seen in several of our projects over the last year. Errors in accounting, errors in billing, things like that have actually ended up costing the organization much more. And it's really important that over the next year we take a very, very targeted approach at trying to reduce these errors in our accounting, budgeting, service delivery, so that we're actually operating services and delivering services in a more efficient manner. And then finally, just like I said earlier, leveraging technology-based solutions to innovate and reduce operational expenses and improve service outcomes. 60% versus 38%. This is something that I've started doing. Last year, I spent a lot of time on the road going to Salt Lake. I still spend a tremendous amount of time going to Salt Lake because sometimes you can't replace an in-person meeting. But I've started having more and more meetings using Zoom and other sort of video conferencing technology so that I can still have that human connection, but also save expenses for the organization. So again, these are things that we need to be thinking about. Just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean that we should continue to do it that way. And again, I'm putting these out there just so these are in your brain too. These are going to be driving a lot of the conversations that I have with the leadership team over the next year. But again, this is a collective effort, and we should all sort of have a common set of values, I think, that we're striving towards. In the future, if we look at kind of where things are going, the most effective human service organizations will collaborate to develop new initiatives and service models and will actively seek out non-traditional partners. This is something that some of our projects have started to do. We've frequently relied upon federal grants. That has changed, and we've started seeking out more non-traditional partners, local governments, state governments, school districts, private corporations, foundations, things like that. To succeed in the current climate, we need to be thinking outside of our traditional bounds. We need to innovate through creative financing models. You're not going to, the days of getting the $5 million federal grant, at least for the time being, are gone. It's just not out there anymore. And so we need to think a little more creatively about how we finance what we do. I think there are some remarkable projects that are doing this. Right now, I think that WebAIM, I think that some of the services projects with Up to 3 and others have been very innovative and thoughtful about how they're financing what they do. I think that can expand across more of our projects. Mark Innocenti in the Research and Training Division works on several pay-for-success projects, which is an innovative model that's worth looking into for some of our projects as well, where you pay for outcomes. When somebody reaches an outcome, then they get paid. And it's worthwhile doing a little bit of professional development, looking at, is that something that might benefit your project? Harnessing the power of big data and predictive analytics to identify trends, needs, and to determine the most effective investments. We have so much information, and we're still operating off of hunches. This is something that I've noticed. I think this might. And there's so much out there now that we can actually see where things are going. We can actually pull up data from school systems. We can pull up data from Medicaid, and we can see the trends, we can identify the gaps, and we can directly address those. I would say that this is a big part of some of the employment planning that Tim Reeson and I have been working on, looking at where are the needs in the state, where are the gaps, where are the services not being delivered, where are, the state's been gathering tons and tons of data over the past 2 years, but nobody's done a systematic analysis of that. And as we've looked at that, it's helped us identify a need and to create a proposal that will fill that need. The more you look at that and are able to be ahead of the curve, the more likely it is that we're going to be able to carve out a niche for ourselves in the current market. We need to look outside of the human services for new ideas and solutions. We need to be looking at other organizations. We need to be looking at other careers, professions. We need to be looking at the private marketplace for what is working, and then trying to take those ideas and implement them in our programs. The economy right now, for most private corporations, is going gangbusters. It's the best it's been, right, for years and years and years. Corporations are doing a remarkable job at taking advantage of this climate, and yet universities, university centers like this continue to struggle a bit because we're operating from an older model. We operate, and I tell this to people all the time, the CPD is very much like a private corporation. Although we are housed at a university, we sort of live and die by our bottom line. We have to bring in money to support ourselves. We can't, that money, and we don't know if it's coming in on a year-to-year basis, and we have to deliver a competitive service in order to be refunded. Other organizations, other universities don't have to do that. They don't have to necessarily be competitive, right? They're going to get that funding kind of no matter what. We have to be competitive. We have to do what we do better than anybody else. And one way of doing that is looking outside of the human services for new ideas and solutions. And then the other thing that is going to be a theme, especially when we're talking about our services here, is targeting the whole person and their service ecosystem. And I think some of our projects do a remarkable job at this. Up to 3, the clinical services, the interdisciplinary clinic that's been functioning there, is really looking at the whole person and looking at the service system that they work within and trying to address those multiple needs. And this is something that we're going to be building on over the next year, but really recognizing that people don't exist outside of a broader system. This is especially true for people with disabilities, and helping people with disabilities navigate Medicaid, navigate vocational rehabilitation, navigate Social Security, and helping them understand that ecosystem and to work within that ecosystem ensures that services can be delivered more effectively. And so really not just thinking we're going to target your attention deficit disorder and medicate for that. It's looking at the bigger picture. This is the same with any of our projects. In early intervention, it's an interdisciplinary team that's working with these kids and really looking at the whole development of the child, not just one piece. But we need to sort of let that diffuse through our other projects. So this brings up the big question. Clinical services. I mentioned earlier that George and Dennis are retiring, and the question has been out there, and I know I've heard in the community and elsewhere, well, what's going to go on with clinical services? And so I think that it's worthwhile to address this with the whole group so that everybody hears it straight from the horse's mouth as to why we're doing what we're doing there. And again, some of the stuff that I've just talked about is driving this thinking. So given the retirements of Dennis and George, it was a good time to really reevaluate what we do in the interdisciplinary clinic in the Sorensen Center now. When the interdisciplinary clinic started, when Dennis came on 30 years ago, it was a different landscape. You didn't have HMOs. You didn't have a lot of the HIPAA was non-existent, right? A lot of the regulations and the rules that we live within now in our healthcare climate didn't exist. And what's ended up happening is that a lot of these regulations and rules have placed small clinics like our developmental behavioral health clinic at a tremendous disadvantage. Additionally, 30 years ago, what we delivered was innovative. And it was, nobody else was doing that work. Nobody else was serving kids with ADD. Nobody else was serving kids with autism spectrum disorders. But with the growth of IHC and the University of Utah Medical School, we've seen a lot more competition, and not just them. Our developmental behavioral health clinic has competition from Idaho State University. People go to Idaho State University instead of coming here in some cases. People drive to Provo. There's an autism diagnosis clinic down in Provo that people will drive to Provo instead of coming here. So there's a lot more options out there in the world than just our clinic. And when we had a monopoly on that, that was great. It really helped the clinic. But now that other places can do this and deliver comparable or better services at a lower cost, it's placed our clinical services at a bit of a disadvantage. So part of this is related to healthcare regulations. Whether we serve 1 or 100 people or have 1 or 100 providers, we have to have the same structures in place. If we have one provider, we still have to have a billing person. We still have to have somebody who's doing HIPAA compliance. We still have to have all these little regulatory pieces in place. And what that means is that economies of scale, larger organizations like IHC, University of Utah, some of these other big healthcare corporations can do it better and cheaper than we can. So, and again, like all projects here at the CPD, our clinics and our service programs need to generate enough money to cover expenses involved in running the program. The past 9 years, the Developmental Behavioral Health Clinic has not covered their expenses. There's been an increasing deficit over that time that we've had to backfill with other sources. And it seemed like with George and Dennis's retirement, this was a good opportunity to reevaluate and to reassess what we do in that clinic. So we're actually, to complicate this, we've moved into the Sorensen Center. And the Sorensen Center, where all of the clinics are housed together from across the college, has provided some new opportunities and some new challenges. And part of what we want to do is support the vision of the dean in terms of integrating our services and what we do with the broader vision for that building and for the college. So as we look at it, services are important, but they also need to be sustainable. People who work in the Up to 3 program know that over the last, 3 to 5 years, you've seen significant shifts in how that program runs and how you deliver those services because the funding climate has changed and you've had to adapt and sort of accommodate those changes. We are going to have to do exactly the same thing. And you've adapted and accommodated those changes in order to remain sustainable, to keep people employed. It's the same thing with our clinical services. We need to adapt and ensure that we can create a model that is sustainable. So we're going to be working over the next year with the leadership of the Sorensen Center, Gretchen Peacock, Caitlin Oliver, to redesign our services program in such a way that they're competitive. We want to make sure that we're delivering a service that is not existent in the community or that is better than exists in the community. We want to ensure that our services are innovative, right, and that we're disseminating that information, that we're publishing and we're sharing what we're learning through our clinic. We want to ensure they're collaborative. Our clinic has largely been standalone. It's been on its own in its own division, funded by its own sources. And that has been one of the reasons why it's been difficult to sustain. We want to ensure that as we rebuild the clinic, that it's integrated with other departments and with other funding sources so that it is stronger in the long run. We want to make sure that it's student-centered. The vision for the Sorensen Center, although it does deliver services, is largely based upon training students. Our clinic, Vicki Simmons-Meyer and Marty Toohill, have had students work with them, but most of the other providers in the clinic have not worked with students, and we want to ensure that as we move into the future, that all the providers and all the services that we offer through the clinic are also a training ground for students, and that we're turning out the next generation of providers. And then finally, we want to ensure that they're cost effective. We want to make sure that we're delivering a service that is affordable for people in the community, but that is also covers the cost for the people who work within the clinic so that they don't have to worry about if they have a job next year. That's a little bit hard to work within that environment. So we're, like I said earlier, in sort of those notions of innovation and creating an innovative new service. I'm approaching the redesign of clinical services as a process of building a community. It's not just a service. It's building a community of people who are working together to serve the needs of people with disabilities. That means it's going to look different. It's going to look substantially different than it has in the past. But I think that by approaching it that way, it ends up being a lot more sustainable in the long run and will actually serve a broader need. So with that said, people have said, well, are we going to have clinical services? Yes, but I'm not entirely certain what they're going to look like right now. Again, part of building this community is collaborating with the dean, with Gretchen, with the other departments in the Sorensen Center to reevaluate what that might look like. And so this is going to be an ongoing conversation. We'll have an update for you in May. Okay, intentionality. So I went through a bunch of stuff. I know it probably bored you half to death about innovation in the human services. I will send out this PowerPoint to everybody so that you have that data. And I mean, I think there are interesting things to think about. But when we go back to this value, we innovate. This is our value in our description. We innovate. We lead by developing dynamic, sustainable, forward-thinking programs and services. That's what we came up as an organization last year. And it's easy to say we're innovative, and I think in some cases we are innovative. But we have to be intentional, I think, about cultivating it in the future. Just because you have a new idea doesn't necessarily mean that it's innovative. It's like this picture that I saw of a fork, and somebody had taken a fork and had bent it in half, and it said, just because you're unique doesn't mean that you're useful. Right? It's the same sort of thing with innovation. Just because you think you're innovative doesn't mean that you are. And so I think we need to create some intentional processes to help us think more innovatively about what we do into the future. Also, being intentional creates us with a library of ideas that we can draw upon when opportunities present themselves. I've talked about this quite a bit with the grants team. About needing to be responsive instead of reactive. Right now, when grants and contract opportunities come out, we tend to be very reactive. We look at it, we say, yes, we can probably do that, and we sort of retrofit a proposal to meet a particular need. In some cases, we have ideas already existing. In some cases, we make them up as we write the application. I would say I've been involved in several of those projects, the Mental Health and Intellectual Disability Center. It was an opportunity. We looked at it. We said, could we do this? Yeah, probably. We wrote it, but we didn't have a really good, clear, existing plan for where to go, and we've spent the last few months building that plan. But it would be nice to have some of these plans and some of these innovative ideas sort of in a hopper so that as opportunities present themselves, whether it's federal grants, state contracts, or foundation proposals, that we can draw upon this pool to sort of move things in a forward-thinking direction. So to that, and I understand that I need to be involved in cultivating that. So to that end, we're going to start a new thing. We're going to start an innovation forum, and you're going to be thrilled about this. There's the quote up there. I forgot I put that in there. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends upon the unreasonable man or woman, as the case may be. George Bernard Shaw was late 19th century. He wasn't quite, he wasn't open-minded about women being reasonable or unreasonable. But I think he would today say the same thing. We need to think of unreasonable ideas. We need to push the bounds of what we do and think in a more creative way about how we can do it better. So what we are going to do is create a forum once a year. And we're looking for your best ideas, okay? Unreasonable ideas, ideas about how we can improve our services, the human services in general, so that we are better serving the needs of people with disabilities and their family. We're going to do this in a Pecha Kucha type format. How many of you have seen a Pecha Kucha? Barb has. Okay, a few has. Lindsay has. Okay, perfect. So these are kind of fun things. If you haven't participated in these, what it is it's just a lot of corporations use these for pitches for new ideas. Advertising agencies use these. A lot of artists use these to pitch ideas. It's a forum that really constrains what you do and requires you to put a lot of thought towards how you're going to communicate an idea in a very short period of time. So what you have is you have 20 slides on a timer that go for 20 seconds. You're not allowed to use words. You can only use images, which will be a challenge for making your presentations accessible. When you create them, you will have to alt tag all of your images and make sure that they are accessible and available. But what we're going to ask, we're going to put out a call for proposals on March 1st. And on May 2nd, we're going to have this event that's going to be focused on innovations in the human services. It will be open to people within the CPD, but also folks within the College of Education who would like to come and pitch their ideas to a broader forum and receive feedback on these ideas. So if you do the math on this, you have 20 images. It's on a timer, so as you're presenting, the images keep going. So you have to be rehearsed. And it gives you 6.6 minutes to get your idea across. So it's a great, these are actually really, really fun events. It's a way of sort of sharing ideas, and they're frequently quite entertaining. But what I want you to do is to think over the next little bit, what are some ideas that you have to make things better? And how do you communicate that in images? And then how do you present that in 6.6 minutes? And the idea, again, is that we're creating a forum to talk about ideas, to get new ideas out there, to create a library where we're thinking innovatively. Again, it's a structure to be more intentional about innovation and what we do. So let me double check my time here. Okay, perfect. It's oddly quiet. So you will not be required to do this. But if you want to, I would highly encourage you to do it. I'm also going to highly encourage people to attend this event because they are fun. And again, if we approach our work as a community, if we approach what we do as community building, it's important that we show up. It's important that we participate. It's important that we share ideas. We're a lot stronger when we're engaging in these conversations and that we're bringing others along with us. Nowadays, it's pretty rare for people to sit and come up with a great idea on their own. We live in a climate where we need sort of that power of other minds to come up with new ideas. The notion of the inventor, again, sitting alone coming up with, or Thomas Edison, right, sitting alone coming up with the light bulb. That doesn't happen much these days, right? The world's far too complex. The world is far too nuanced for us to sit alone and to come up with these ideas. It requires a community. And so I would highly encourage you to attend this. You will see it come out. I will send out more information. I will send out the template to actually do this if you're interested in doing it, and I'd welcome your questions. Okay, finally. We're just coming out on the other side of the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. We are a federally designated organization. The government shutdown did not affect us this time. But I think that what it does indicate is that the future is not as certain as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. The federal government is no longer as reliable a funder or a driver as it was. And this means that we're going to need to be flexible going into the future. If the government shutdown would have gone a few weeks longer, it would have started to affect our programs. It would have affected the nutrition program. It would have started to trickle down to our grants, right? Where we would not have the funding to do what we do. Which means that, again, although federal dollars historically were seen as being relatively stable, they're a little more risky these days than they were. And so we need to be, again, thinking innovatively, be thinking flexibly, be sort of stretching the bounds of what it is that we do as an organization. The metaphor that I like to use for this is bamboo. So the Japanese proverb here, the bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists. Any of you who've grown up around oak trees know that you can have these gigantic, huge oak trees. And at the University of Idaho, where I came from, their administration building is surrounded by these gigantic oak and sycamore trees. Many of them are hundreds of years old. And these big windstorms would come through, and we would walk out after these windstorms, and you would have huge branches that had broken off onto the ground because they couldn't withstand the wind. So although an oak tree is definitely a strong, it's a strong tree, it's nowhere near as strong as bamboo. Bamboo is really a remarkable organism, for lack of a better term. So as we move into the next few years, we need to be like bamboo, and our ability to weather what's coming up is going to be dependent upon two things. And again, going back to this theme of being innovative, we have to be flexible, and we have to be able to forge collaborative partnerships. And I think bamboo is a nice metaphor for both of these things. Bamboo can, and I don't know how many of you have actually seen a bamboo grove in a windstorm. A bamboo grove in a windstorm, especially smaller bamboo, can be blown down till it's flat on the ground. And the minute that the wind stops, it comes right back up, right? Bamboo is very, very difficult to break. If you've ever tried to get on a bamboo stalk or one of the poles and tried to bend bamboo down, it's near impossible, especially green bamboo, to break it. And you can actually push it right down to the ground, and it pops right back up. It's resilient. It's strong. And in many ways, it's stronger than oak, right? Your cutting boards, your floors in your homes now are made out of bamboo, and yet your clothing's also made out of bamboo. Have you all seen bamboo clothing? Yeah, some of your clothing, so it's flexible and soft at the same time. It's a remarkable substance. It's a nice metaphor, I think, for where we need to go. We have to be, hard. We have to be resilient. We have to be flexible all at the same time as we move into this future, because it's not the same future that we had. The other thing that makes bamboo resilient is its root structure, and this is where I get nerdy just for a second. Actually, I've been more than nerdy today. Bamboos grow through rhizomes, and rhizomes are a series of interconnected roots, right? And so all the bamboo stalks in a grove are interconnected through these rhizomes. Now, these rhizomes don't go deep. Many of them are, less than 6 inches underground, and yet because they're interconnected and they're sort of all tied in together, it makes it very, very strong. So it's very difficult to uproot bamboo. I would highly recommend, if you plant bamboo in your yard, it's invasive. It does take over. I'm not sure about here in Utah if it's invasive, but only till winter and then it dies, yeah. They do have hardy forms of bamboo, but it grows and it's very hard to uproot. It's very hard to pull out. If you've watched any of the footage of tsunamis that go through Indonesia or Thailand or any of these areas recently, you can see some of them where you have these bamboo groves where the tsunami goes through and completely flattens these bamboo, and then the bamboo pops back up through the water. And yet it's not, the rhizomes are only 6 inches deep in the ground. And it ensures that bamboo is strong because of its interconnectedness. It also means that if one is damaged, that it doesn't compromise the whole organism. Many of these are interconnected, and one can die, one can be chopped down, and and yet the organism itself continues to be strong and frequently will grow back. A lot of this is, I think we need to think this way regarding our projects, and I'm not being terribly eloquent about this, but I think we need to think about how do we ensure the long-term sustainability of our projects by working together with others and other organizations, creating these interconnected networks, interconnected shared positions, shared contracts, shared responsibilities, and I know a lot of you do this, so that we can sustain and live through the uncertainty that's coming up in the next few years. This is very similar to distributed computing as well. With distributed computing, right, the data doesn't live on just one computer, it lives within a network, so if one computer goes down, that data is still there. It's the same thing, whether it's our services, whether it's our projects, whether it's our people. The more that we can share and interconnect everything that we do, the more likely it is that things are going to be sustainable. There are people in this room that, are paid off of 20 and 30 different funding sources throughout a year. This is a good way, I think, of thinking about this sustainability. being paid from 20 or 30 funding sources, if one funding source disappears, you still have support for the rest of your position, even though you maybe lost a fraction of it. But you getting back $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 to make up that piece is a lot easier than coming up with a full salary if you're on just one funding source. And so thinking about how we diversify the folks that we work with, how we integrate the folks that we work with across various projects is important, I think, to keeping good people here at the center and to ensuring that our projects will be sustainable over time. So that's Deep Thoughts with Matt, and I'm sorry for getting way too nerdy there. Okay, here we go, a humble request. So last items, last business items as we go through, and I've given you a lot to think about. 2019 dates for all staff meetings. May 21st is our next one, 2 to 4. We've gone to 3 per year. We were doing 4 per year. That seemed to be too much. So this was our first one. We'll have them in May and then September. It'll be the same next year, January, May, September. I'm requesting those of you who are here, thank you for being here. I'm trying to request that people schedule around all upcoming staff meetings. I know that in the past there hasn't been as much advance warning. There is plenty of advance warning now. With these all staff meetings, this one I've talked a lot, and I'm sorry, I'm going to try to get away from that. But I ask that you take 6 hours out of the whole year. That's 2,060 working hours that you have in the whole year. That's if you only work a 40-hour week, which nobody in here does. Everybody in here is working 60 and 80-hour weeks, I'm sure. So I'm asking 6 hours to attend a staff meeting to sort of get updated on what's going on. Please make this a priority and try to schedule around it. It's important that we're all informed and on the same page if we want to move forward as a community and an organization. Upcoming important dates, just so that everyone's aware. Our policy team, the legislative session started yesterday. We have a policy team that meets every Monday at 4 o'clock throughout the session. If you are interested in policy and what's going on at the state regarding disability services and some of our programs, please, that's my timer saying shut up. Please make time to attend that. So 4 o'clock, there is a call-in number. I believe that went out to everybody on the all staff listserv. Again, this isn't required, but if you're interested in policy, there's a lot going on this session, particularly around Medicaid, disability support services in general, that is probably worth your time and attention. On March 5th, we're going to have a grants prospecting webinar. That's exactly what it sounds like. It's how do you find grants? There was a question actually by Cindy about what's the best way to find grants. We found an organization that can give us, I think, a really good summary of effective way to reach out to find maybe non-traditional funding sources. We're all relatively good at, I think, grants.gov, but where do you find those small foundations and other organizations that will fund some of what we do? So that's what this webinar on March 5th is about. Performance evaluations, again, are due on March 29th. And again, going back to the very beginning around that performance evaluation, when you're writing those goals, we have core goal reports, lunch reports, the second Tuesday. I can't remember if that's Tuesday. We have them once a month. We'll just call it that. From 12 to 1 in room 105. So on February 12th, Jeff will be reporting on the transition goal if you want to know what's going on around transition at the center. March 12th, Norm will be reporting on the personnel preparation goal. On April 9th, Sue Olson will be reporting on the health goal. And then May 14th, Tim Reeson will be reporting on the employment goal. So again, these are not required, but if you want to know what's going on around these and you want to be involved in some of the project development, I highly encourage you to come and attend these short meetings. And then finally, most of you know that USU has been in the news for the past few years because we have not been so good about sexual harassment, discrimination, things like that. Although this has not changed, I want to highlight it. Everybody, when you come in, is supposed to do a sexual harassment training. There is an online training and there is an in-person training. I would like you to go back, check and make sure that you are up to date on your training. And if not, I would encourage you to go and renew your online training and attend one of these upcoming in-person sexual harassment trainings. So there's February 13th, March 21st, and April 5th at the library. It's, again, a small piece out of your year, and yet it's really, really important that we be aware and sensitive to how we interact with other people. We can certainly do better. As a university, I think we do pretty good as an organization, but there's always room to improve. I used to tell my students, if you ever feel like you know everything, you should be really, really worried. You should always be improving, growing, and renewing your knowledge. So with that said, there's going to be food and stuff back in the lobby of the CPD, and here you go. Here's your big thought for the next few months. Show up, do the work, get better, stay positive, do good, keep pushing every day. You'll be amazed at where that gets you in life, right? Consistency is the most important thing to making progress. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you back at the CPD. No questions.